So next up, we're going to check out PancreasNoWork's Thanquol, the horned rat, funny-silliest clown thing, fighting for his toughest, hardest battle fights. I don't know why I suck at Skaven language horribly, which is just doublespeak, except for when I randomly slip into it without realizing, yes, that's good. I don't know why, but I know this is going to be someone who I was told ends every book he's in by eating someone. Yeah, walking into this, that's the only thing I know about him other than that he's Skaven. That is literally it. I'm sure that's fine. I mean, it's not like that could be a horrible coincidence. So let's just see where this goes. Also, Corinne, I'm not running out of camera juice for once. I know it's weird.
Warhammer has a lot of characters in it. Shocking, I know. Also surely shocking to you is that people tend to like some of these characters quite a bit.
Yeah, I don't know many about the old world stuff. I enjoy Marathi. I don't think she's a good character. I think she's an interesting villain who somehow is on the good team.
I myself, of course, am partial to the Prince and Emperor of Reichland, Karl Franz, but
Really?
there's plenty of other characters that have cults of personalities around them as well. Just ask someone who's read the Night Lord's Omnibus. They'll scream at you about Talos for so long you'll think you've ended up in Whiterun by mistake. Everyone will
that would be
argue to
funny.
you about why X character.
Now that would be an interesting crossover to watch. They get Talos returned to Skyrim. Why is he all edgy and covered in lightning?
They like is actually the greatest fella to ever exist in Warhammer. It's just how it is. Even Iron Hands fans can somehow argue for hours about how Ferrus Manus is interesting. It doesn't matter how prominent a character actually is in these settings. They all have their rabid fans. But one...
For anyone who doesn't get the joke there, Ferrus Manus actually does have some interesting things, but before the heresy, out of all of the Emperor's children, not the Legion, but the actual Primarchs, the biggest asshole was Ferrus Manus. And I'm including Lorgar and the freaking Death Guard in there. No, Perturabo is on this list, and Ferrus Manus is the one who is known to be the biggest asshole. Yeah. Just throwing that out there.
One stands above all of them. There can only be one character in Warhammer that is truly the greatest of them all.
Kitten.
And in this case, that title does not go to an Ultramarine. For this character, we must delve deeper. We have to enter into the layers of Skavendom to find him. For where else can we find the greatest character if not in the
I thought the greatest character, unironically, this is my actual opinion, is Caiaphas Cain. I'm not even joking about that. I think, like, he is one of the characters where it's like, he makes Warhammer better because he lets you have the one thing that Warhammer normally doesn't. A character who is not all-powerful, who is aware of the risks, but also gets into hilarious situations, lets you empathize with him in multiple ways while also feeling like he's powerful, but sometimes also not. Yeah, I'm just going to say he probably would be the next up.
greatest faction. From wizards of boundless power to warriors of unparalleled might to even Gotrek and Felix themselves, the mightiest duo to ever grace Warhammer, all have been equally unable to rid the world.
Duo. Oh, that hurts considering Sigmar. Here's the thing. I actually don't mind Age of Sigmar, mostly because I love the models that came out with it. They're so beautiful, man. But I'm biased in that fact. And just, yeah, Duo. Although apparently there are rumors that he might get Gotrek back. Or sorry, no, Felix might come back. Gotrek, he's still around.
World of our true hero, the one, the only, Grey Seer Thanquol. In him you will
that's how you say
find
it,
true
Thanquol?
bravery,
Oh, I've been saying that wrong.
courage, endless magical might strength, and only the finest of tactical strategic minds to ever be seen in the universe. Today, we talk about not just a silly rat man, but the silly rat man. But before we begin, allow me to take an educated guess.
I can't tell if that's a well-painted or horribly painted model for an Ultramarine down there. I just realized his hair is blue, though. God.
You either have or currently are using my videos to fall asleep. It's no worries, I do that with YouTube too. And if you'd like some phenomenal sleep aids, you could do no better of sleep masks to ever grace this.
I refuse to look at this right now, not because I disagree or think the ad's a bad choice, but because the concept of actually having a good night's sleep sounds so foreign to me. I'm not going to think about it. That would involve... That's what he looks like?
It's a nice bit of pressure that helps.
Okay, 1, deducting points for the Funko Pops. Adding them in because, goddamn, nice on the posters.
me relax and fall asleep. The premium fee, those of you, this is a huge there's two variations. Mantis Sleep link. Click the link below and use code PancreasNoWork can make the. Now then, time to pay respects not only to Thanquol, but Bone Ripper and his thousands of identically named brothers. Thanquol's origins aren't completely known, but by virtue of him being a Grey Seer, we can draw from what we know of them to make some reasonably educated guesses. Whatever clan he once came from, he was born with gray fur and horns growing out of his head, and so from birth he was already destined to become a Grey Seer. Becoming an apprentice to an existing Grey Seer named Sleekit, he was a model apprentice to his liege, just as dutiful, studious, and loyal to Sleekit as any apprentice would be to their own.
Oh, the joke is that they're not actually any of those things, isn't it? Okay.
Skaven master. To translate that, he was dutiful in trying to get his fellow apprentices killed and framed for things, studious in all the ways he could potentially get his master killed so he could take his place, and of course, loyal enough that when his master was crushed to death, Thanquol stayed just long enough to watch him die and steal Sleekit's staff and amulet so he could become a Grey Seer instead. Naturally, yes, Thanquol played a part in his master's demise. He's a Grey Seer, of course he was involved in his master's death. His fellow apprentices were all done in on their own, though, or at least without Thanquol's direct help.
Really?
Between his origin and Gotrek and Felix, not too.
Does that mean, as far as Skaven goes, he's actually the upstanding one, or he's actually horrible? Oh, that's probably the joke. It's probably both. Huh.
Too much happens, but at some point in his life, he was picked up by Seer Lord Kritislik, the head of the Grey Seers and a member of the Council of 13. Thanquol was specifically chosen by the head of all Grey Seers to be his top guy, so you know his life is going to be fun to read about. Now, this video is going to be a bit more of me yapping about all things Thanquol has done, because I just like talking about the funny rat more than anything. So how about we get
why
into
is he
his
funny,
first
for
appearance?
example?
At first glance, the title of the book does not bode well for him, I must admit. Skaven Slayer, a Gotrek and Felix book.
Okay, one? Yeah. For some reason, I thought he was riding a motorcycle here, but no, that's actually just Skaven. But with how it's put down between the shield right there and what looks like a head, it almost thought Gotrek was literally just riding a motorcycle for a second. It's probably the eye patch looking like a glasses that would do it. Ooh, also, I'm going to pull this up quickly. Ah, they're not loading, that's why. Comments are missing, but basically one will eventually come up as Iron going. Pancreas also had a pretty good video on Elder Scrolls. The main draw is the Ultimar is the only elven race he hates ever. He's called an a simp. He's called an elf simp. Why the oh, because they're the ones who, the high elves, the golden elves, they're the ones who literally make everything worse in that entire world. Yeah, that is kind of the case. They are horrible. Like, all the others have redeeming qualities. The Ultimar do not. All of them are horrible, even in their game portrayals. It's a thing.
Thanquol, at this point, was deemed to have enough importance to the Council of 13 and Kritislik to be given command of the Skaven invasion of the imperial city of Nuln, the head of the Empire's engineering and gunpowder production.
Oh, that's where the paint Nuln oil comes from, or the wash. Oh. Okay, that would do it.
Nuln would be a great city to take down in any invasion of the Empire of Man. Thanquol was to lead the charge on this operation, and almost immediately he just couldn't help himself from being himself. Thanquol's initial plan to take over Nuln was, in all honesty, not a bad one. One of the heads of Nuln was, shall we say, not a fan of mutants even by Warhammer standards, but somehow in this insane man's mind, Skaven were okay to work with for a bit.
What?
They were outwardly bad, you see, whereas the insidious mutant lurks anywhere and should be dealt with first. This attitude led to him trusting Thanquol, a sentence that doesn't bode well for anyone.
You know, I'd almost assume that this is complete on chaos corruption, but this is Warhammer writing, so the guy might just be insane, too.
Thanquol's plan was to manipulate Fritz von Halstead, the individual in question, to eventually cause a civil war in the Empire by way of getting Karl Franz's brother-in-law killed. Fine plan, but unfortunately Gotrek and Felix tripped over it. At the time, they were working as sewer jacks and patrolling Nuln sewers, not because they were specifically looking for Thanquol, but because those two are in a perpetual state of having no money and needing odd jobs to get by. And
Preach.
Eventually, they found Fritz speaking to a Skaven, eventually found out his identity, and tracked him down and killed him. Thanquol's part in this was to fight Felix, watch as Gotrek ripped his pet rat ogre in half with a single blow, and then wisely chose to be anywhere but where those two were at.
Yeah.
But the Nuln saga continues for...
I mean, that actually makes him smarter than most villains, enemies, mooks, gods that Gotrek has fought, considering, you know, he fought through chaos Yeah, just throwing that out there.
Friends, Thanquol, as any good Skaven leader does, had underlings, most of the important ones from the various great
You know what? No. New headcanon. The Emperor is a dwarf with a red mohawk. You know which one. I can't be convinced otherwise.
clans of the Skaven, Moulder, Scryer, all the big hits. These underlings started coming up with plans to take over Nuln, which would be great for anyone else, but for a Skaven leader, that's basically the end of the world. Those underlings will get the credit and alert the Council of 13 that Thanquol doesn't deserve to be in charge anymore. So Thanquol starts mailing Gotrek and Felix letters telling them about every single plan the Skaven are going to be working towards, because it can't be the Skaven that succeed, it has to be him, Greyseer Thanquol, to take down Nuln. And
Because they're all
it's Gotrek and
backstabbers.
Felix, all of these plans are dealt with, some a bit less successfully than others, but nothing works well enough for the Skaven to take down Nuln. Clan Pestilence is going to spread some diseases with a super plague. Better send a letter to the dwarf and the manling to go stop them.
So his entire funny Ratman thing is literally betraying everyone by having the heroes do it for him. After they beat him. Oh my god. It works though.
Clan Scryer is going to steal the steam tank. Tell the dynamic duo to kill every rat involved. The best part of all of this is that Gotrek and Felix take a single look at these letters and go, a rat wrote this. This was clearly a Skaven that handed that to you. But they just shrug and listen anyways, because it keeps working out. From Thanquol's perspective, this is a genius act.
Also, I just realized he has the piercings from his ear into his, the forehead. I just realized that. Sorry. Things that pierce the skin are one of the things I cannot deal with. I can ignore piercings. The nose ring right there. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh God. It's like it's in the ear and the scalp at the same time. And it's around the eye patch, so he can't even take it off without cutting it. God. I don't know if that's how he's described it or someone's going heavy on this one, but that is... I can't, man. There's things I cannot stomach, and that is... I need to look away.
Shrug and listen anyways, because it keeps working out. From Thanquol's perspective,
okay,
this
back to
is a
safer
genius
stuff.
act to deal with treacherous underlings and come out on top. But from theirs, it's just like, well, I guess this one rat really doesn't like the others. Might as well keep doing what he says.
Yeah.
Eventually, he starts cluing in on the fact that these two are perhaps going to cause him some trouble down the line, and sends clannish and assassins to kill him. Doesn't work. The Skaven Slayer stories are in the first omnibus, and there's 6 of those things. Of course it doesn't work. After this, there's an event where all of Nuln's nobility are together at a ball. The perfect time to strike. Nuln is invaded by the Skaven, everything is in chaos, and then Thanquol still cocks it up by not realizing he's in a Gotrek and Felix book. He also decided to ass-blast his chief assassin underling to Kingdom Come. Why did he do this? It wasn't much a fan of him, basically.
I mean, yeah, but they're Skaven, so... See, on this one, it's not in the ear. But the previous one, it was in the ear. And, not the ear, the scalp. This is much safer to look at.
Invasion foiled because Gotrek...
Also, yeah, Zach, Hellraiser was a nightmare for me. There's a reason I'm not going to watch that. My wife loves it. I'm not watching it. I love my wife. I'm still not watching that. I will throw up. I mean, I'm feeling faint in the stomach right now. And I don't like this.
Felix rallied the people and then kicked him out. Thanquol scurries away to plot another day. Now, this was an embarrassing defeat for Thanquol.
Also, I'm going to pull up your comment, Raw. If it actually... okay. Yeah. Is Ash based off... Why did you just get to this one now? Okay, this is very far behind. Yeah, just going to... Okay, there we go. Fun fact. Snorri is worst. He jammed 3 red bolts as his mohawk as Slayer... Wait, his mohawk is literally just bolts in his head? That's one way to do it. Okay.
And it lost him quite a bit of money and power, and he knew if he returned to Skavenblight, the Council of 13 would ask him what the hell went wrong, and then probably kill him. So he gathered what money he had left and instead started investigating a dwarf outpost in the middle of nowhere, correctly figuring out that they were surely up to something over there. He did a bit of spying and almost shit himself because he saw the blonde man that had caused him so much trouble and knew his angry short redhead buddy wasn't far behind. So he throws his new forces at the outpost in a semi-panic, which fails, although there is very one sad death death scene for a dwarf who was stationed as a guard only to be poisoned to death as he alerts everyone the Skaven are here now. Thanquol's army ends up being routed, but not before he learns that the dwarfs had built themselves a war zeppelin. So he has his little ratty Skaven underling, Lurk Snitchtongue, that he's been abusing and having work as a spy, hitch a ride on the damn thing. Since he can see through this poor rat's eyes, he's constantly badgering him on updates on where the Thunder Barge is going. Lurk, who's trying to Skyrim stealth his way around a dwarf Thunder Barge without getting caught, is constantly trying to hide not only his physical presence, but Thanquol's magical communications with him. At one point, he was forced to hide on the outside of the moving Zeppelin, while a chaos storm was happening outside.
I'm not sure just how bad a chaos storm is in the old world by comparison to things like a chaos storm in 40k, but I'm assuming the answer is you don't want to be there regardless. Oh God. Oh my God.
The poor dude was basically mutated into becoming a rat ogre because his boss wouldn't let him go home when his shift said he was supposed to be done. And when Thanquol meets back up with him, it's right before Godric and Felix are about to head to the Chaos Waste themselves. Thanquol, who had gathered another army of underlings courtesy of Clan Mulder to replace the last one that died under his command, ambushed where the Thunder
the
Barge
rats
was briefly
come
going
back
to stop and resupply, as well as capturing Max Schreiber and Ulrika Magneva, two of Godric and Felix's good friends, to put it one way. When the main two fellas showed up alongside Snorri and Malachi, they all started fighting. Thanquol is himself, so of course Max and Ulrika were freed, and then Max and Thanquol started magically wrestling over the airship. And while I haven't really focused much on it, I need you to understand that Thanquol is an absurdly powerful wizard when he's at the top of his game. Especially after he's chowed down on Warpstone, he can blast damn near anyone out of his way, even if he might need a bit of a breather afterward.
Oh, wow.
So were it not for Lurk suddenly surprising him and Snorri and Godric approaching him to disrupt his focus, he probably would have ripped the finest piece of dwarf engineering out of the sky. Even when Max joined the fight, the human wizard noted that Thanquol was absurdly powerful and he needed all of his focus to win. Eventually, though, Thanquol was beaten, and he fled this encounter with a teleporting spell after he realized that Godric was about 10 feet from him with murder in his eyes.
And again, makes him probably one of the smartest entities in all of, well, Warhammer, and because I think they both survived into it, Age of Sigmar as well.
Thanquol reappeared back in reality.
Also, I'm being told by Martin, I think Warp Storm Zero Sugar. Oh God, it's that bad. Oh God, that's even worse.
Alone some distance away and realized that once again every one of his underlings, and for that matter all of his money, was gone, and he had no idea how to get back to Skavenblight.
Oh God, I just realized the joke with him. He's literally the Skaven version of Godric and Felix. He's incredibly competent, but never has any money and never has anything to show his success. Yeah, because he's also just trying to find money as well. That's going to be the running joke. He's literally like their dark shadow at this point.
Showed up, which wasn't really good news for Thanquol, because he was about as happy as anyone could be towards the person who made them sit outside in a rainstorm from hell. But Thanquol threatens to blast him with magic, so instead of fighting, they wander around, discover that a massive chaos horde is invading from the north because it's Warhammer and that just happens sometimes, and they end up in Clan Mulder territory. Lurk proceeds to go and start a revolution in Hell Pit by claiming he's the Horned Rat's son or some shit, while Thanquol gets thrown in jail because one of his underlings from Nuln survived and wasn't terribly happy with him. Thanquol's trying to desperately explain that chaos is...
Wait. The Skaven have jails? I'm not even joking. That just sounds weird, man. I thought it would be like, you're just gonna die. Or you'll just get eaten. Or you'll just get chucked at something as a rat ogre without having a brain attached. Maybe literally. Skaven having jail. That just sounds so weird. That's like finding out that there's a version of Slaanesh that is calm, collected, and doesn't like to do R34 things because they prefer the finer things in life, like quietly as appreciating stoicism. Not what I would be expecting. Would that possibly exist? Yeah, sure. Warhammer and the Warp are weird. But would it be the one I'm thinking about? Yeah.
coming, everyone, and the dude he's talking to is just like, yes, how very intriguing. Have you considered we don't care and I hate you? But Thanquol is Thanquol, and every god in the universe is smiling down on him because he's the funny little rat guy, so of course he has a free ticket out of this problem too. Because Thanquol has a direct magical connection to Lurk that lets him know where he is and what he's doing, Lurk's slave revolt is completely halted, and Thanquol has once again gotten himself back into a stable-ish position. Thanquol is then given command of another army, and for once, this actually goes well. While Gotchik and Felix were defending the city of Prague, Thanquol was just kind of randomly appearing throughout the book. Towards the end, he fights part of the same horde Gotchik and Felix were, and in his own words, despite not even outnumbering the enemy because there were only 4 Skaven for every 1 Chaos Warrior, victory was achieved. And props to him because, yeah, he just won the fight. There wasn't much going on with it. It was a side story in the main Gotchik and Felix book that amounted to a bunch of rats jumping Chaos Warriors.
Isn't the normal amount of bare minimum amount of rats 1 to 10 for 10 Skaven for every 1 anyone else? That is not even half strength. That's under half strength. And they won because Chaos, they don't pull punches in any setting, 40k or Age of Sigmar or 30k or I guess Fantasy. That's kind of impressive. Does really juice up the... Actually, never mind. It makes perfect sense though, considering Gotrek. Yeah, against anyone else, it probably would be way different endings.
Who thought they were going to go fight someone else. But hey, a win is a win, and Thanquol is ready to enjoy some rewards for a resounding Skaven victory. Oh, and before I move on to his own books, at one point in the Gotchik and Felix books, Thanquol is using a far squeaker, basically Skaven Skype. It blew up in his face. This was an assassination attempt.
How old is this? 2 months. This is only 2 months old. Ah. The book this is written on, though, is probably older than any current... how to put this in a way that YouTube is okay with. There were tactics used in conflicts in very heated locations that involved exactly what PancreasNoWork is talking about right now. So these ideas existed before IRL usage.
This was also the singular time something went wrong in Thanquol's life that he didn't blame on sabotage by other people. It's peak. This rat is peak. We've reached the pinnacle of fictional characters right here.
Wait, so the one time actually was someone else? It wasn't him?
Anyways, we cut to the events of his own books, and immediately he is being kidnapped by other Skaven. And the best part of this is, the book doesn't begin with him even conscious. He is dreaming of himself achieving ultimate power, only to be thwarted by Gotchik and Felix. Those two are literally in his nightmares. He spent such a massive amount of time thinking about that, even this relatively early into their story and his own. When he wakes up, he's tied...
I mean, he's smart to realize that part, though.
To a pole being carried by other rats, and immediately, and I mean immediately, he starts blaming other people for his predicament. Sabotage by his underlings, incompetence by his underlings, the hated Gotchik and Felix things that keep ruining his plans.
I mean, to be fair, it's not wrong. It's all of those things as well. The Skaven are intentionally incompetent. They are betrayal, and Gotchik and Felix will destroy his plans. He's not wrong.
Nothing is ever his fault, of course. He's taken to the Council of 13, and when he meets with them, instead of congratulating him on defeating a random Chaos army, they're like, hey buddy, where's the Zeppelin? Then they drop him in a hole which he fears is the, quote, maze of inescapable death. But thankfully no, he finds out it's just the maze of merciless penance, which in theory...
Okay, there's rats in a... Oh, the joke is there are rats in a maze. Is there a giant block of cheese in there somewhere? Yeah, it's so on the nose, I kind of love it.
You can survive. Also, of course, the Skaven have things like that. Why wouldn't they have something called the Maze of Inescapable Death?
I mean, told it's up to 40 instead of 10.
Thanquol's restored to something resembling a position of power and is told to go snoop around Under Altdorf, the Skaven Undercity that's, of course, Under Altdorf. The Council doesn't think those Skaven Under Altdorf and Under...
Okay, I want to appreciate how well done this image is. They literally just took the Last Supper and put Skaven in the place. Oh my god. That is well done.
Altdorf are quite as loyal as they should be. Plus, there's an artifact of incredible power that's recently been uncovered there, and the Council of 13 wants it. So he goes to Under Altdorf, but not before he gets some chances to be himself for a bit, aka an asshole. For example, the Skaven have a single crop they grow called black corn. It's corn that tastes like rat shit, but by virtue of being food that isn't the corpse of another Skaven, having some is a sign of wealth. Thanquol is a picky eater, so he tosses some away to show how wealthy he is and to have other Skaven be jealous of him. On the ship that'll take him to Under Altdorf, he also kicks the Skaven boat captain in the face, who then starts beating his underlings and telling them to do better jobs, and the entire exchange ends with the crew of the ship Thanquol is on randomly whipping slaves because they feel slighted. Skaven society truly is a marvel of social engineering. As the book goes on, Thanquol finds more.
Considering this is a British game, I do sometimes wonder just how much of this is a direct dig at some of the, let's put it this way, the reasoning behind the aristocrats joke. I don't know, but the answer isn't no. It's just I don't know. It could be yes.
Information about the artifact he's after, called the Wormstone because it makes weird worm things that aren't even technically alive.
Oh.
If a human touches it, they become violently ill until they dissolve into sludge. If a Skaven touches it, there is no ill period. They just die and make more worms. Now's a good time to mention something about Thanquol and his books. They're horror stories. For pretty much everyone that isn't a Skaven, Thanquol's books are an unrelenting march of terror as people wonder what is happening, how to stop it, realizing there's a dastardly Skaven ploy, or that the Skaven are even real in some cases. Then we cut back to our rat, and it's right back to the eternal circus that is Thanquol's life. It's hard to put into words how utterly horrifying it is to be in one of his books if you aren't Thanquol. And the main antagonist of Grey Seer, because calling anyone but Thanquol the bad guy is woefully incorrect, proves this in many ways. There exists the shadow wizard in Altdorf known as Jeremiah Scrivener. He's a secretive protector of Altdorf, with a vast range of contacts and underlings from all walks of life, be they criminal, city watchmen, and even some dwarfs. The dude's so intimidating that's like a ghost when he walks in a room. People he's near can't see him if he doesn't expressly allow them to. They only feel a dark and foreboding presence. He makes the room he enters grow chill, ice starts creeping up on the mirrors, and of course, as a shadow wizard, he can manipulate shadows as he likes.
So basically, we're just looking at a guy going, oh, he's just, is he, I know we're getting the art right here, but he's basically just Nazgul, but not the evil version. Oh my god.
The dude is so powerful that he semi-regularly astral projects to talk to Slann. He knows his stuff. And aside from being terrifying to the human characters of Grey Seer, the few times he's relatively open about what threats they face, he's talking about a threat that can completely destroy Altdorf. This unending tide of vermin beneath the city, led by a mastermind rat, hatching a plot that can destroy all of it. And worst of all, he's right, because the Skaven eventually decide to use the Wormstone to poison all of Altdorf's water supply in the most horrific way possible. The entire book for the human characters is an absolute nightmare, and as the human characters find various people afflicted by the Wormstone's plague, as well as encounter the Skaven, you can see just why people are utterly terrified of the Ratmen. Then we cut back to Thanquol, and it's just a sequence of him being an asshole, or a traitor, or both. He meets the ruler of Under Altdorf, who reveals he wants to become ruler of all Skavendom, whereupon Thanquol decides this treacherous act must be stopped. It should be Thanquol who uses the Wormstone to become powerful in the eyes of the Council of 13, or even take it over himself. And then he does a line of Warpstone because the man's heavily addicted to it. He does Warp Snuff sometimes too, which I'm pretty sure is just crack. I know Warpstone is already pretty similar to Coke, but Warp Snuff is like that, but it doesn't boost your powers. Great.
In other words, yeah, it's intentionally wasteful, which is also something we've already been told explicitly that he will do. So yeah, it makes sense. Also, Martin mentioned the Slann are the closest living things to the old ones. Maybe. That's always one of those things where, yes, that's what they were initially, but also that depends on how close to Rogue Trader you want to get and if people are interpreting it right. I could see it being that way, but also not being that way. And I honestly just don't know which way it's going to go, because they are slowly starting to reveal more things in 40K's past. But yeah, it's weird.
Grey Seer is probably my least favorite of the three books, so I won't spend too much time on it, but please do not take that to mean it's any lesser of a read. That'd be like saying out of these 3 gold bars, this one's the smallest, so it's completely worthless. As the book progresses, Thanquol makes about 50 different alliances through begging, lying, promising to backstab someone else, and then actually backstabbing someone else before repeating. There is also, at one point, another Bone Ripper involved. This one has 3 arms and is supposedly the largest one yet. It dies, because of course it does. It does basically kill this monstrous clan pestilence-diseased rat creature thing before it can get Thanquol though, which Thanquol does appreciate. In fact, the only things I think he ever has any semblance of positive, genuine emotions towards are his various rat ogres that he always immediately names Bone Ripper. Doesn't stop him from hitting them or berating them, of course, it just means that when they do something nice, he might actually seem appreciative. Eventually we come to a climactic battle where Thanquol is fighting his rival Skaven, who is incidentally Lord Skrulk, but even this early on, anyone who isn't Thanquol is completely tertiary to Thanquol and Thanquol's plans, respectively. All the Skaven involved are also fighting Jeremiah Scrivener and his...
So it was a two-front war on their end. Okay, that makes sense, because of course it's the Skaven. In fact, there's probably more even individual skirmishes within it, because if you're only betraying someone once, you're not doing a Skaven enough job. I'm not sure if the book would cover that, because if you want to go full Skaven, I mean, even I know that's not going to happen.
Ragtag army.
Oh,
Thanquol
God.
had dueled with him on several occasions throughout the book. And the entire time it was from the Shadowmancer's perspective. He's watching this rat counter almost every trick he has.
Oh, so you actually saw how he would look externally to someone. Okay, I was kind of wondering if we would see what the shadow guy would look like from Thanquol's position, but I guess it makes more sense to see Thanquol from someone else's position, so you don't know how fucked up it is right away before getting his internal perspective.
Even though he mostly has the upper hand, the Grey Seer is clearly a dangerous foe. Then we cut back to Thanquol, and it's back to being a comedy. He's chewing on Warpstone both for the power and the comfort throughout the fight, and also whenever he's on Warpstone, as an aside, he briefly becomes even more of a megalomaniac before he reins himself in a bit. This manifests throughout the entire series.
How does it get more?
Him promising to kill Scrivener, Skrulk, all of Altdorf, all of Altdorf. If Thanquol is railing a line, he's ready to fight the entire planet. In this book, he's also the Skaven version of Batman, because he bought a bunch of good luck charms, magic scrolls, and magical amulets that maybe half of which are actually magical and he didn't just get scammed. He loses the final fight of the book, but he whips out a teleportation scroll and just dips.
And it works.
The way the book ends truly, oh good lord is it funny. Thanquol teleports out with barely a clue where he is, and he's surrounded by cats for some reason.
What?
Obviously, not doing great after everything that had just
Considering
happened.
he's a rat.
But just then, some fat old lady comes in, sees him, and faints in terror. And I swear to you, I'm not just being mean when I say that. Thanquol calls her one of the plumpest examples of humans he's ever seen. The final sentences of the book are him trying to come up with a lie for the Council of 13 as to why he couldn't retrieve the Wormstone, and him praising the Horned Rat for gifting him such a bountiful meal in the form of that soon-to-be very dead old lady. Some fantasy books end with the hero rescuing the princess and saving the day. Others end with the promise of hope on the horizon, even if much work needs to be done to reach it. Warhammer fantasy books end with a rat man eating a fat lady after he does drugs. Best series by far.
What? I was right. I had heard that. I wasn't sure if someone was screwing with me or not by telling me his books end that way, but no, apparently that is exactly where it goes. Oh, wow. Oh. And I am now out of coffee. That is depressing. Oh my god.
So Thanquol's doing a bit better now after that book. Not by too much, but he is doing better. Manages to avoid being executed by the Lords of Decay too, even if Clan Eshin's lords clearly had plans for him. He decides to take himself on a walk through Skavenblight and even buys himself another Bone Ripper. All in all, he's doing pretty good.
Probably always
then a bunch
another.
of garbage Skaven assassins try to kill him, the real competent one tries to poison him,
Oh.
and then he tries to get Thanquol killed via Skaven Crowd Crush. It was funny because when he
Crowd crush? Oh, it's probably just Skavens overwhelming each other because there's a lot of them. That makes sense.
saw the 3 goober assassins walking towards him, he was in utter disbelief. He looked at them and was in complete shock at how bad they were at their job, visibly approaching him wearing what looked like assassin garb and drawing knives. Then the actual assassins started fighting, and he understood what was happening then. Him and Bone Ripper number 4, I think we're on 4 now, drive off these assailants, and Thanquol scuttles away to the room he's renting. Then he gets jumped by Deathmaster Sniksh, who cuts down Bone Ripper in seconds and brings him to Night Lord Sneak, Grandmaster of Clan Eshin. Our absurd rat protagonist should by all reason and logic be dead, but for reasons I simply cannot comprehend, people keep trying to use Thanquol for some reason. His track record is noticeably failure after failure by this point, but if I had to guess, it's both because he makes an easy fall guy, and when you want a wizard on the cheap, threatening Thanquol is a good way to go about that.
And he does the one thing most Skaven don't actually achieve. He hasn't died yet. Because that's kind of the thing about the Skaven. Their power isn't heroes. It's, we got another one, and we got another one, and we got another one. You're not going to be playing, well, I mean, you could with some ogres, but you're not going to play the big, scary blob of, oh, that's Marathi on the board. You're fucked. No, he's the equivalent of saying, wait, he still hasn't done, so he's failed all these times, and he's still alive with all his pieces. And he's powerful. It's almost like the snowball effect of, he hasn't died yet. Why hasn't he died? He's a Skaven. Or I guess you consider it the other way. A Helldiver surviving more than 3 minutes, which is about a minute to half a minute longer than normal. Yeah, they've actually timed that shit.
Thanquol is now involved in a clandestine scheme to assassinate a prophet of Sotek, whose name I'm not even going to pretend to try and say. It's a red-crested skink, it isn't the goober you probably only know for having a bad Total Warhammer campaign, and he resides in a city only relatively recently being re-inhabited by the Lizardmen after Clan Pestilence made it all icky. For a brief cut into what the non-Skaven characters will be doing in this book, it is as follows. The human characters, and briefly an elf, are going through hell as their
Okay, I was going to not say something, but what the, I'm sorry. How are you outdoing the sheer, it's like it's someone's doing a stereotype of what a goth would look like in Imperial garb. I mean, when you can look at some of the things in 40K and go, you know what, that looks a little more sensible by comparison. Wow. Yeah, someone probably has a type. Let's put it that way. Ooh, also, Vitan, you mentioned Skaven exists to give Nagash an existential crisis. Oh, God, I hope so. I hope that's actually one of the things that happened here. Also, that's a witch hunter? I mean, if that's what they want to call it, yeah. Fantasy Inquisitors? That part I did know. But just the black lipstick, the incredibly white face. It's like, okay, yeah, I get it. They're basically just the Raven Guard appearance, but not Space Marine. Yeah.
Marooned in Lustria and subjected to all the hells of this continent, fighting both the jungle itself and the lizardmen inside. For Aslan, the entire book was orchestrated by him as he tries to figure out if the cult of Sotek the Skinks have is actually a good thing or not, since the Slan really aren't sure on if Sotek is a good or a bad thing for the Great Plan. All the suffering of everyone involved in this book is the Slan's fault, because for some reason they can't determine if the god of their minions that despises the Skaven is a force for good or not. Anyways, back to the Rat Man. Thanquol.
Yeah, that sounds like they could be the 40K old ones. That sounds just self-destructive enough to do it.
Is immediately upset to find out he's not the one in charge of the expedition, and almost immediately after
betrays them.
This begins devising ways to get the true leaders killed. Naturally, none of these methods he comes up with are how it happens, because Thanquol's an idiot. Once the Skaven themselves arrive,
yeah, which makes it even weirder that he's alive. So probably he's an incompetent asshole. And yet somehow that makes him the most competent. Oh, God, I love this.
In Lustria, they start scouting out how to find the Temple of the Serpent and Sotek's prophet. Of course, first a few dozen of them are eaten alive by sharks, but that's hardly worth mentioning. Oh no, a Skaven died. Grass is green and I need insulin. What a big reveal. What is worth mentioning is something that was brought up by the human and elf characters during one of the segments. In the southern tip of Lustria is a high elf settlement they briefly plan to escape to. In between them and that settlement lies the Vampire Coast. Now for the humans...
I'm sorry, was that a giant walking ship? Yeah, that is a giant walking ship with a cannon arm. And bodies sticking out of it. Is that a zombie ship titan? No, they basically just... Okay, sure. I'm just, okay. I don't even know what's going on here, but okay. Why is that not a model they've actually sold? That looks amazing.
Now for the humans, because by the time they do anything productive, the elf has been murdered by skinks, this is not an issue. For the Skaven and Thanquol, this is an issue. Because throughout their bumbling in the swamps, they trip over a particular bit of swamp infested with zombies that start eating them. Thanquol switches rapidly back and forth between cowardice and actually fighting before he's jumped by the same first Skaven assassin from earlier. This assassin is actually one of his underlings from Skaven Slayer who wanted revenge for Thanquol getting him and his fellows killed and humiliated. And the thing is, this whole time Thanquol's putting in the work. He basically goes full red rage and brutalizes a bunch of zombies, and he manages to bash the assassin in the face and cause them to be dragged down by the zombies.
Oh.
Thanquol, when he locks in, is apparently an incredibly deadly melee combatant. He also has one of my favorite moments ever. When the assassin jumped him in the swamp, he has a brief moment of contemplation afterwards and goes, "Wait a minute, I know exactly who the assassin is and who's trying to kill me," and then proceeds to blame entirely the wrong Skaven for this. He goes insane in melee again, too. As everyone gets to the Temple of Sotek over the story's course, there's naturally both lizardmen and spawning pools to make more of them. Thanquol eventually captures the human characters to allow him entrance into the temple, because he needs a human to destroy the anti-Skaven wards around it.
How strong is he, like, in melee? Like, would survive a round with... Okay, probably wouldn't survive a round with Gotrek, but, like, would it be able to at least escape... He probably would be able to escape long enough. You know, I really shouldn't measure him against Gotrek, considering he is mimetically the guy you go to murder shit. Probably need a better scale.
They get in and discover that there's...
I'm being told for Kryn that One Page Rules does have a model for this. Oh, I mean, they are starting to release official plastic models, so maybe I should look into that. They've also sold the files for it, but I haven't got to those yet.
a massive, sacred snake at the center of the temple. Thanquol ends up being vaguely involved in getting the other Skaven killed, because while as Skaven they can plan backstabs with the best of them, Thanquol might as well have the divine protection from the horned rat, and no one can really hurt him. Eventually, it comes down to Thanquol and one of the humans who had been forced into the temple by Thanquol. He saw the human surrounded by lizardmen, realized he was going to be next if the human died, and went utterly ballistic. He slaughtered dozens of skinks in melee combat while Bone Ripper was fighting a Croxagore. There's a new Bone Ripper, by the way. It was a rat ogre one of the previous leaders owned until Thanquol decided it was his now. There was a lot of threatening and blackmail involved. I wouldn't worry about the specifics of how he acquired this one. It's not long for the world. Once that was dealt with, Thanquol and the human began searching for another human, because Thanquol knew he needed the first human as insurance, and so did the human in question. They eventually find said captured human, and Thanquol immediately makes a break for it. The human he was with shoots the Prophet of Sotek because the skink was about to do that Indiana Jones rip your heart out of your chest move on his kind of girlfriend, and Thanquol just booked it. The human he was traveling with and his kind of girlfriend go do their own thing. Does not end well, spoiler alert, but Thanquol and Bone Ripper, oh, this pair isn't done, because they begin tracking the assassin who had survived the zombie mud pit back to the ship that carried them there.
The assassin survived? Oh, shit. Sorry, I'm just not used to the idea of assassins and Skaven surviving encounters. I mean, other than Thanquol, but any other Skaven, it's like, oh, they're mentioned, and they're dead. I also just realized he's holding the other sword in his tail. Okay, that's a pretty good bit of art.
Surprisingly, they track him back to the ship, and not only did the assassin not sail away already, but he was already dead. On the downside, though, he was dead because those zombies from earlier boarded the ship and killed the assassin.
Ew.
Thanquol and Bone Ripper go ham for a bit once again before Thanquol realizes, uh-oh, I'm using warp fire magic. And one of those zombies he cooked had just fallen into the ammunition storage of the ship. So Thanquol dives off the ship onto a raft into the water, and it takes just long enough for him to feel stupid about doing so before the powder storage goes off and the entire ship
takes out all the
up.
zombies.
Thanquol survives if a bit shaken up, and Bone Ripper actually makes it out as well. The rat ogre claws his way onto the raft Thanquol's on, to which Thanquol in his mind starts calling Bone Ripper a useless idiot for daring to claw his way to safety near his master. And then, much like the Grinch, Thanquol got an idea. A terrible, awful idea. The raft Thanquol was on had water, but not much food. Bone Ripper number whatever we're on was basically dead and already at least a little bit cooked. So the last we see of Thanquol's point of view in this book is him once again thanking the horned rat for providing him food as he proceeds to begin getting ready to eat his pet. This is now the second book in a row where Thanquol's finished it by eating a living creature. The rest of this book is full of amazing little moments too.
Why is
like
that
I mentioned
the
earlier,
thing?
Thanquol didn't buy or was gifted this Bone Ripper like he normally was. It was initially a bodyguard for one of the other Skaven leaders of the expedition. Thanquol spends a lot of time up to a certain point complaining that a real Skaven wizard doesn't need something as pathetic as a rat ogre bodyguard to be safe and look tough. But then
he immediately needs it himself. Yeah, I know exactly what I was going to say, because it's completely and utterly insane, hypocritical, and wrong. So perfect thing to say, because it's the entire thing about the Skaven. They're more orky than the orcs are in the Age of Sigmar and fantasy setting. Oh, God.
The singular moment he gets to be in charge, he immediately commandeers the rat ogre and renames it Bone Ripper. This kind of thing is
Yeah.
constant, too. He will regularly lambaste other people for things he says are wrong and he dislikes, but then
But he gladly
nanosecond
does
things
himself.
go in his favor, everything he complains about is
God.
suddenly perfectly valid. The concept of shame has never entered Thanquol's mind, and I'm glad. I don't want him to ever feel shame. If he felt shame, I'm pretty sure he'd melt. The pinnacle, though, isn't from Thanquol's point of view. It's from the Slann who started this mess.
Oh.
At least some Slann view the world as mathematical equations. Magic, the people living in it, all part of one big mathematical equations of the old ones. This Slann in particular calls the various humans and rats low-variation fractals. They can change things and be a bit random, but you can figure them out for the most part pretty easily, much like the rest of the Slann.
And therein you see why they're probably the old ones, because they're the exact opposite of chaos. They're very orderly. And somehow they're still the assholes. Ugh. It would be interesting if that turns out to be something that comes up in 40K later, and they're just working over the idea now, because that does seem to be something that 40K gets. All the good ideas get worked through Age of Sigmar and old fantasy ideas, and then they just take some of the ideas that did decent at A/B testing and put it into 40K. Maybe not always good by the end, but what they think is sometimes good, sometimes not. It does seem to happen more often than once.
He also hates rats. Even more so than demons, they despise the Skaven. And at the end of the book, the Slann has Thanquol completely at his mercy without Thanquol ever knowing. As Thanquol was sailing away, he could have done any number of things to sink and kill him, but he concluded that leaving Thanquol alive would cause more harm to the Skaven than it would bring everyone else benefit to kill him.
He's probably not even wrong, actually.
Slann seeing the world as math just makes it so much more perfect. It literally did the math, consulted all the formulas, and the end result of the magical calculation was Thanquol equals more dead rats. I don't know if I should feel good about myself or not after reading that, genuinely. Because if you ever want to feel confident, know that you surely aren't as pathetic and harmful to those around you that someone who considers you worse than demons would let you live. But on the other hand, that's one hell of an accomplishment.
Yeah.
Imagine Doom Guy leaving a demon alive because it'll kill so many more demons alive than the one dead demon you get by killing it. That's legitimately impressive. That's a level of shit that no one can hope to aspire to.
Thanquol's Doom? Oh, it's the next book then.
So Thanquol's Doom is already off to a good start because it begins with the Slann from before talking to the Shadowmancer from the first book about how Thanquol is going to be a huge problem for a dwarf hold the wizard has an agent in. On the end of the dwarfs of this book is a mad dash to stop the Skaven invasion of the hold. A rather radical dwarf who's a pretty chill dude with respect for progress and tradition invents automatic machine gun turrets because we're going full steampunk this book, and it's overall good.
Sorry, I just thought, okay, we're going full machine guns, and the basic Skaven strategy is all the rats. Oh, this is going to be fun.
Good stuff, but we aren't here for them. We're here for the clown, and by God is Thanquol on form from the get-go. It begins with him washing ashore into a real shithole of a settlement even by Skaven standards, but one under the control of a greater clan, so he can't just start evaporating people. He bullies himself into being in charge, kind of. He tries to secure passage out on a boat, kind of succeeds. Then the local Skaven warlord decides it'd be a good idea to jump Thanquol. Now at first, it's portrayed as a bit of a predicament, with a whole lot of rats ready to rob and kill our boy. Then the Skaven warlord makes a crucial mistake, because Thanquol is a PTSD-ridden little goober. The Skaven in charge rubs his thumb along his weapon's edge and draws a little bit of blood. It's a nothing action. It's at most a little idle tick the Skaven warlord apparently has. Unfortunately, another character who does the same thing before a fight is, of course, Gotrek Gerdison, and Thanquol very well remembers it, so he freaks out and evaporates the dude on the spot with magic.
Yeah, I love this. They are living in his head rent-free. Just the reminder of Gotrek is like, nope, we're not dealing with that. And again, considering Gotrek is literally the mimetic badass who is accomplished more than some of the 40K badasses, and unironically might be able to solo going into the warp unshielded. He basically pulls Doom Guy in canon already. So yeah, Thanquol is not wrong to have that reaction.
Some dwarf slaves break free, Thanquol starts braining people with his staff, the slaves start killing Skaven, Thanquol commandeers his new boat and heads to Skaven Blight. Now, have you ever read, like, poorly written fan fiction or something where the author's self-insert character meets all the established ones?
I've read worse. I've read official novels where they decide to self-insert into their own novel to meet the characters, and then the characters complement the self-insert, and then the self-insert goes away, and you're like, oh, what was that for? That was quirky, and I don't get why this here. Why is this? I'll give fan fiction a pass because it's usually just done for fun. When an actual novel does that, I'm explicitly thinking of not Aragorn, but the third book in the series, and that's as far as I got, because they did that. And it was such a random pile of bullshit, just going like, what did this have to do with anything? These are unestablished characters. Why are you just gassing them? Okay, it was a random, just big alligator moment. Sure, why not? Yeah, things like that actually get to me. I don't know why. Also, Raw, the Slann are not the old ones. They were the representatives of the lizardmen before they abandoned their failed creation, including humans in fantasy, after Chaos arrived. Yeah, I remember they abandoned them. Also, didn't they get screwed over anyways in Chaos because they didn't actually succeed? And they kind of went crazy? Yeah, I think they were also screwed over in Age of Sigmar, which is one of those, yeah, fuck those guys. They were technically on the good team, but they were not on the good team. Yeah.
And everyone loves him because of Mary Sue stuff. Well, Thanquol is kind of like the inverse of that. He meets plenty of big-name Skaven characters. He's been around the block. He met Lord Skrulk in his first book, who tried to kill him. He met Deathmaster Snikch, who very easily could have killed him and only didn't do so because Clan Eshin could use him for their goals. And shortly into Thanquol's doom, we start meeting more characters. Thanquol has learned by this point from the various attempts on his life, and once he's reacquired himself a bunch of new minions and bodyguards, he starts taking various back alleyways to get to where he's going. I can't fault him for his caution. Legitimately, Thanquol can be dangerously intelligent sometimes. It's like he's the uncanny valley of intelligence. If he were even the least bit smarter, he'd be the single most dangerous being in existence. Archaon wouldn't be the Everchosen, it'd be this rat. But he's been
Oh, if they ever did what ifs, I would love to see what would happen if the Everchosen was Thanquol, just because of how weird that would make the setting. I kind of want it, man.
And those last few IQ points to clear the valley, so he slides back down into being the world's biggest idiot. Anyways, the alley plan doesn't work. Snikch shows up and kills all his servants and tells him to say nothing about his involvement in killing the prophet of Sotak. And God bless his little rat soul, in this moment Thanquol was just utterly confused. Not even in a how can I spin this to my advantage and get out alive kind of way. He was just genuinely unable to understand why this should be kept a secret. He even says the words almost verbatim, but I did kill the prophet of Sotak, because like I said, we couldn't clear the uncanny idiot valley, so Thanquol really hit Snikch with, but I did have breakfast today. When Snikch leaves, Thanquol's bodyguards are all dead, and it turns out his servants actually lived. They just stole all his belongings during the fighting and dipped, and then he gets kidnapped again. Back to the Council of 13, back to being used by them for their own purposes. He was already being strong-armed by some other Skaven into assisting them assault the dwarf hold I'd mentioned earlier, and now the Council of 13 is telling him to keep doing that, but for their own schemes. And then the party gets ambushed.
Oh yeah, because the Skaven do actually have advanced firearms and cannons. And apparently snipers. This is a sniper rifle with a very big scope that they're using shields made of wood to block. This feels so weird in so many ways, man.
During transit to the hold, where Thanquol bravely trips a clan rat over and uses him as a human shield. He decides that won't actually work because the weapons firing at them are blowing cannonball-sized holes in Skaven, so he pushes the other rat forward and then scurries away. Turns out this latest ambush was orchestrated by none other than Ikit himself, who showed up with rats wearing power armor. Thanquol does at least...
Okay, 1 size, okay, nice. 2, I'm sorry, powered armor rats? You know, I was making a joke earlier about Everchosen Thanquol will be funny. Now I'm just thinking, wait. Thanquol, given Everchosen status, with all the bullshit the Skaven come up with, actually might be worse. Oh god, that actually would be probably an unbeatable threat at that point.
Get an inverse.
It would literally just be 40k in fantasy.
Caiaphas Cain moment, he scurries back out of hiding, and all the assembled rats, even the scryer ambushers, look at him with awe and a little bit of dread. In his mind, it's because he thinks his legend has grown so much that all who see him bow in subservience. In actuality, it's because the scryer rats thought they lit him on fire, and it appeared like he just shrugged off their warp fire throwers. Neither of these things are true, but all of reality conspires to keep Thanquol around, so it's best to just roll with it.
I mean, to be fair, Thanquol technically is right. They are in awe of him. Specifically, the fact that they failed to kill him. It's just the wrong kind of awe.
Thanquol immediately begins trying to showboat, only to be shut down at every turn. The Skaven earlier had at least given him a, quote, gift bribe in the form of the first Bone Ripper resurrected with the Scryer technology, which he naturally once again calls Bone Ripper. Thanquol, after the ambush, tried to pretend he told Bone Ripper to not harm the Scryer rats, only for Icketclaw to laugh and tell him this one has a shutdown valve that prevents it from hurting any members of Clan Scryer. Thanquol then proceeds to look increasingly stupid as he keeps trying to see what Icketclaw had hidden under a tarp. Turns out this was the beginning of a Doom Sphere, aka a Skaven nuke. It didn't work due to dwarf sabotage, but Icketclaw nearly blew up the entirety of both Skavendom and the dwarf holds for no other reason than he wanted to prove he could build the biggest bomb ever. To those of
I mentioned already that the Skaven feel more orky than the orcs in fantasy and AoE, and this is probably one of the reasons I would agree with that statement and why I believe it.
you who are about to say that's a very 40k orky thing to do, no. It is not. Orcs are very Skaven-y sometimes, is what that is. Now, I'm going to jump to the end here.
Okay, no, I take it back. That's even a better way to describe it. I'm also being told by Shark Laser Boy, the Skaven have machine guns, snipers, grenades, and flamethrowers in a fantasy setting. Yeah. If the Skaven became an Everchosen, it just basically becomes a weird 40k versus fantasy setup. Oh, God.
For the most part, because as much as Thanquol is great in all of this book, it's more of what I've been talking about. But the ending is truly Thanquol at his best.
What?
Over the course of the book, a mummified paw of a terrible Skaven lord was found that could boost one's magical power, connection to the horned rat, and even summon a vermin lord. Thanquol, of course, gets his paws on this paw, and eventually it's used to summon a vermin lord into the mortal world. Or at least, he wanted to use it to do that. Thanquol, when he first got it, immediately felt something was off with it. Another Grey Seer he'd been forced to travel with used it to try and kill him, and Thanquol noted it made him even more insane than a Grey Seer having a power trip normally.
Wait. They can get more insane. I'm sorry, that's like someone telling me that Jeffrey Dahmer decided to come up with a good recipe for human flesh, and then he made it worse. I'm just saying, like, these words do not make sense like you seem to be believing they did. And at every step of the way, I'm just going, that does not make sense. But apparently those are the words that are exactly describing what's happening here. Okay. Also to quote Juan on this one, Ra. The Skaven are weird. Technically, the Skaven have the best, but the Empire Man and dwarves are better armed for their basic infantry and have handgun early machine guns, known rifles, and shotguns. Huh. It's almost... Oh God, if they just... It's a good thing they're not on the same side. This would be really weird otherwise. Or if Thanquol was really good at stealing the good shit.
He is. If Thanquol is noticing you've gone crazy, something is terribly wrong with whoever is doing that to you. So he mostly just stored it in his pocket and used it to make threats. Moving to the end of the book, Thanquol has ended up coming into contact with the Clan Moor's army led by Queek Headtaker, because at this point the Thanquol books are all an excuse to have well-known Skaven characters try to beat the shit out of our boy. Queek tries to kill him, and at one point when Thanquol says that's rat heresy, he tells Thanquol that Queek has given many heads, and so the Horned Rat won't mind him killing just one Grey Seer, which is both cool and terrifying to Thanquol. As Queek and Clan Moors begin assaulting the dwarf hold of the book one more time, Thanquol realizes he's almost certainly screwed between the dwarfs and Queek actively trying to kill him, so he uses the mummified Skaven paw to bring forth an ancient vermin lord born of the powerful seer of legend. Except it was a little bit tampered with. It summoned a greater demon alright, but instead of a vermin lord, it summoned motherfucking Scarbrand. Queek immediately runs away and gains an even greater
Scarbrand! The Corn Demon. Not a demon, not the demon. The demon for Corn. Who also is hated by Corn and may or may not be a cat's paw by Zinch to fuck with everyone. Okay. That happened. The only thing that would have me scratching my head more is probably saying, oh yeah, by the way, he has Bellicor on speed dial. Because sure, at this point, why not?
Hatred of Grey Seers than he already had, and Scarbrand just starts axing people left and right. The dwarfs and remaining Skaven go insane until the main dwarf character of the book can drop a statue of Elia on Scarbrand's head, and even then Scarbrand still has time before his total banishment to basically tell Thanquol to give him a call whenever he wants. Scarbrand gave Thanquol a murderous booty call to reiterate that sentence. The book ends with Thanquol skittering away once.
How good are you at killing your own guys that a demon wants to help you? Oh my god. Oh. Also, to quote chat right now, Scarbrand hates being summoned. But then he just loves it for Thanquol. Because Thanquol is so much of Thanquol that it's guaranteed to be exactly what Scarbrand wants. Oh my god. What
again,
the fuck?
Offering prayers to both the Horned Rat and Khorne himself just to cover all his bases. But not before he blasted the dwarf who killed Scarbrand with magic to make himself feel better about the entire mess. And hey, on the bright side for something in these books, the rebuilt Bone Ripper lived.
Oh.
And since it was the reanimated corpse of the first one ever, technically
Still dead.
this removes one dead Bone Ripper from the tally. Progress.
Thanquol goes swimming. The end times.
Thanquol would go on to do his normal thing from here, of falling
How did he
almost
survive
completely
that?
from grace, only to somehow claw his way back to being entrusted with entire armies and stashes of wealth.
Oh
How he does this, no one knows. He's simply too garbage to actually fail, because it loops around into him being unstoppable. In the Godric and Felix novel Elf Slayer,
Wait, what? He did what?
entire armies and stashes of wealth. How he does this, no one knows. He's simply too garbage to actually fail, because it loops around into him being unstoppable.
Yeah, that was the sentence I heard, and it doesn't make any more sense the second time I read it. Also, I'm just going to read off Raw's comment. Scarbrand is exiled from Khorne for trying to backstab him for the Chaos Gods, can die and be replaced. Oh yeah, because 40k handles it differently than Age of Sigmar or Fantasy. Yeah. That was the old one's plans with their creation, to kill off and replace the Chaos Gods. Yeah, because even though that ain't going to happen in 40k, in Age of Fantasy and Age of Sigmar, that is a possibility. Although I'm not sure if it's a possibility in Age of Sigmar anymore. It definitely is a possibility in Fantasy. Although I don't think it would be a possibility in Fantasy anymore, considering they literally ended it without it possibly happening. So yeah, they have to go alternate timelines at that point. Technically, this is what's happening to Slaanesh and why Marathi has power, because she literally is stealing power from Slaanesh.
In the Godric and Felix novel Elf Slayer, Thanquol decided he was done living in fear of the dynamic duo. So he tortured Felix's dad and information as to where he was and then killed him. Then he started sending waves of Skaven assassins after Godric and Felix. The latter thing was unsuccessful, as you could no doubt guess, but the former resulted in Felix eventually taking on almost dwarf levels of vengeance seeking against our rat boy. Thanquol hatched another plan, however. Learning that the duo was mucking about in the swamps of Marienburg, he managed to have them captured and brought aboard a Skaven submarine. Don't ask about that. The Skaven has submarines, I guess.
Is that something that keeps happening in current time? Because in Age of Sigmar, they have an underwater faction, the Idoneth Deepkin. I would love to just randomly, like, oh, by the way, Skaven sub. It wouldn't even be the first time they've done that kind of thing. If they have airships, why not having subs?
He finally has our heroes tied up, and does he revel in it? He starts bragging about all the torture he's going to inflict on them, how he's going to make them suffer as they made him suffer, 20 years of indignation at their hands and their hands alone. To Thanquol, this duel was ultimately responsible for every single thing that went wrong in his life, be that directly or as a result of them foiling prior plans of his. And right as he's really getting into it, Felix asks Thanquol who he is. And in that moment, you could hear the world come to a halt. You could hear the singular gear in Thanquol's brain screech to a stop as he tried to process what's going on. It was...
I'm sorry, they literally just said who are you? That's actually the perfect response. Because Thanquol is an insane, self-absorbed asshole who has all of the desire to be the most powerful, most well-known. And we saw in the previous mention where he says, like, oh yeah, he's being an ass and like making a fool of himself. by saying how great he is, but no one else believes it. And here it's like, it's all your fault. You are my nemesis. You have been in my head constantly, because they have, and they don't even know him. Because for him, it would have just been that guy they fought back years ago who just didn't die. They didn't even know that. Oh my God.
As if he couldn't decide if he heard Felix correctly, or if all the warpstone and warp snuff he'd taken over the years was finally taking its toll on his health. And then Felix double-checked with Gotrek to see if the dwarf knew who Thanquol was, only for Gotrek to respond with, "They all look the same to me, manling." And in that moment, Thanquol broke. Not for long, because you can't keep him down, but he simply did not know how to process the fact that his most hated enemies, who to him were constantly foiling his schemes to spite him, had no idea who he was, and every time they did so, it was basically just a random encounter. The rest of him in that book is him zoning in on trying to capture the artifact Gotrek, Felix, and the other characters of the book were searching for, which not only fails, but the submarine sinks, Gotrek and Felix get away, and Thanquol has to survive the ocean's currents once more.
The irony is that some of the random other big name players probably have more awareness and respect for Thanquol. It's just that thing that's really dangerous, and we kind of need to leave it alive because he'll fuck them over more than his actual nemesis do. That's actually funnier, man.
Failed to kill his nemesis because he got greedy, but that was fine. This was just one more setback on Thanquol's inevitable rise to power. He may have lost a hand in the process, but between his magical amulet that regenerates wounds that he just has on him and his own power, even that was just a temporary problem. And out of all the end times lore there is, this goofball was one of the few who came out on top during it. Thanquol was apparently part of the Skaven forces that destroyed Tylea, and shockingly did well enough or took enough credit from others that he was able to reach the height of his wealth and political power.
Oh, he's actually allowed to do that?
Fucking, I don't know how to say that man's name. Seer Lord Critilisk, meanwhile, was accused of being a real goober by pretty much every Skaven of any worth. And then the Horned Rat himself showed up in the mortal world and ate the Seer Lord.
I was unaware of that. I also haven't paid much attention to the end time, so I did not know that. Also, I'm just going to pull up Raw's comment. Technically, Nagash succeeded by corrupting the death magic. It implies each Chaos Throne is a corrupted wind of magic, implying there were 8. Oddly enough, I've heard stirrings about that in 40k as well, because of all of the emphasis on how, well, the tech god, demigod, who isn't one of the big 4 but is also there, and they may or may not be playing into that. And I think that's what I mentioned, stealing ideas from fantasy and AOS and then bringing them into 40k. This is one of the examples. I didn't realize that was a corrupted path, though. Also, Nucleon. Have I ever watched Legend of Dupe Shovel by Soundsmith? No, but I have seen apparently I can't speak today. Soundsmith. So, yeah, sounds pretty good. Also, Martin, you forgot, like, the fan fiction's bad? Or faction's bad? Yeah. I'm not sure which one you mean. The end time has cool moments, but the books were... Oh, books. Okay, I got different things. Yeah. Oh, and we reached the goal. Yep, we did, which means after this video, I'm going to have 2 videos owed to you guys tomorrow, so we'll have to decide quickly. Or I'll just put up a goal tomorrow immediately as we do the first one I owe you guys.
The Skaven then unify, if only out of fear of also being eaten, and Thanquol for his part gets to finally invade and conquer the city of Nuln as he once did all those years ago. And then finally we were given our proof. Proof that the Divine truly do smile upon Thanquol, if only because they find him incredibly funny. Because as the new replacement Seer Lord, the most influential Skaven there is, the Horned Rat looked at every Grey Seer possible and then found Thanquol. And lo did the Horned Rat look at our man and say, You are my top guy. You are the funny one who will bring my word to the world. And then Thanquol was the new Seer Lord. The Vermin Lord Screech Vermin King gives Thanquol a new and improved Bone Ripper. Thanquol forges the Skaven alliance with Archaon and Chaos, and as the end times reach their zenith, Thanquol alongside his god...
Wait, they formed an alliance and didn't immediately break it? You know what? We haven't finished the video yet. It's probably following right after this. Oh, God.
God helps drag Skavenblight into the warp. He did it. He became the Skaven of all time. Now, in Age of Sigmar, we didn't have word on Thanquol for a bit. But what we did have eventually was word of a mysterious figure of power and influence, a being known only as the Grey Lord who demanded fear and obedience from his underlings. When we first learn of this being, we're told of a character commanding some pretty powerful people, and surely only a figure of true might could command such respect, and shit, it's Thanquol, isn't it? It's gonna be Thanquol. Thanquol nearly destroyed the city of Hammerhall, which is one of the most important cities for the forces of order in Age of Sigmar.
Oh.
It seems he's finally become the feared and renowned Skaven leader he was always meant to be here. But the flip side of Thanquol being blessed to never die is that he's cursed to never actually win in the end, because just as he made it to AOS, so too did none other than Gotrek Gurnisson himself. No.
Yep. And I know which one I would take in a fight. I would lose to both. But I would much more want Gotrek on my side than anything else.
Felix, but the dwarf has come back with a vengeance, and now he sees Thanquol as a proper enemy. Thanquol has to freak out.
Also, Martin, you mentioned... Actually, I'm just going to pull this comment up because I think this is funny. We all know why Fantasy ended. The Skaven didn't betray their alliance, so the world had to end. God, that's actually funny.
To end all freakouts as he learns Gotrek survives, and an uncountable number of years' worth of PTSD crashes onto him all at once, and orders the dwarf to be killed immediately.
And fails.
The two clash in the book Blood of the Old World over a realm gate that leads to Warhammer Fantasy, and while Gotrek gets a tearful goodbye with Felix through the rubble and the portal, Thanquol does what he does best and runs the hell away. Now he plots and schemes anew, waiting to once again try and achieve...
Oh wait, they actually got to have a goodbye scene in a book in AOS for Fantasy? Oh. Shit, I actually wasn't aware of that. That's touching, actually. I honestly thought they were just going to wait until he was reincarnated in the future. Oh, shit. Also, Martin mentioned I would probably win against Thanquol because he would find some stupid way to lose. Yeah, either that or he would eat me. It can go either way.
Dominance over all there is. Also, he saved all of Skavenblight from drowning in AOS. He ran away afterwards, though, not only because he was afraid other Skaven figures would have him killed for his success, not only because his plans killed so many Skaven that even the other rat men thought it was excessive, but also because he might have had a part in Skavenblight being flooded to begin with. And also there were zombies as part of the flood. There goes my hero.
God. Do or don't, Thanquol.
For lore positives of Thanquol, all of them. He is the Skaven. If you like Skaven, you should like Thanquol. There's nothing else to be said here. If you as a Skaven player somehow don't like Thanquol, you need to forfeit your Skaven army immediately. Horned Rat casts 10,000 curses of brain explode upon you. But beyond that, if you want an army that will always destroy the enemy, you want Thanquol leading your army. Let's say you somehow play the worst game of Warhammer ever conceived. You don't just...
Joke's on you. I already do that. Yeah, that's not a joke. Also, Martin mentioned, oh, wait, there actually is a Thanquol model? You have him built but not painted. Oh, shit, I actually didn't realize he had a model. That makes sense he does, but that's pretty cool.
Destroy a single enemy model and get tabled turn 3. Doesn't matter. The aftermath of your tabletop match's lore will be something Thanquol had planned going horribly wrong in a way that causes all of his enemies to simultaneously go insane and then blow up. Thanquol getting a victory isn't the thing you have to worry about. It's how he loses that's going to bring low your enemies. Although, of course, a loss for Thanquol isn't truly a loss. That's just one more setback on the road to endless glory. Know in your heart that when Thanquol is deployed to the field of battle, he can never truly lose.
God.
He simply postpones victory a little while longer. Even if his model is destroyed, it's fine. It's simply...
Oh, that's his model? Yeah, no, that's actually pretty cool. That, and he has the Rat Ogre, the Bone Shredder, Ripper, whatever, beneath him. That is pretty cool, honestly, yeah.
One more Bone Ripper to add to the pile as he scurries away. For rules positives in current AOS 4th edition, Thanquol has 8 inches of movement, 14 health, 5 control, and a 4-up save.
Wait, 14? Oh yeah, because there's a lot of splash damage on this.
As well as a 5-up ward save. Surprisingly tanky, even by non-Skaven standards. He's only a power level 2 wizard, which he no doubt finds incredibly insulting, but he rides forth on Bone Ripper to make up for these flaws. Bone Ripper's able to brutalize enemies quite alright. His warp fire projectors are a nice way to get some ranged damage in on an enemy closing in, fairly reliably hitting and being quite reliable at wounding. His fists are a bit less accurate, but wound just as easily and deal 3 damage a pop.
I used to know what this means, but I know they've updated since I played many years ago, so I forgot a lot of what this meant. I know there's no competitive roles. It's just, did you make the save? Good. Move on. Which I honestly don't mind.
While Thanquol hitting you in the face with his magic staff is definitely less reliable, but potentially just as deadly with D3 damage. He's gone berserk in melee throughout his stories, remember. Just because he's now old as hell doesn't mean he's any less deadly. As for his special abilities, his staff gives him +1 to casting rolls. Nothing flashy, but always an...
It would be kind of funny, though, if they made another version with just Thanquol going full-on sicko mode with magic. and then do all the magic effects around him. And one of the things is he's going to fail. And then the things around his target take damage.
Ability you'll love to see.
Would they do
He
it?
has
No,
an
the
inbuilt
off flavor would be
spell that
awesome,
makes
though.
enemies unable to use commands and start beating each other to death to deal damage. And since it's flavored as him causing madness, I choose to believe it's his enemies realizing they're facing the mortal realm's most destructive moron and going insane over that.
Yes.
Once per turn during a combat phase, he can inflict anywhere from a D3 to 2d3 mortal damage on a target he's currently fighting, and at the end of a turn, he gets to heal D3 wounds. That first one lets Bone Ripper smash damn near anything he's in melee with into paste, and the last one is just free healing. There's never a time you won't appreciate free healing. For lore downsides, nah, I ain't doing that today. You get no lore downsides with Thanquol from me. I love him too much. As we've already determined, if he loses, it doesn't count, and if you kill him, you only killed Bone Ripper number 40,000. Any further potential downsides you can think of for Thanquol, such as your army being led by a massive coward who regularly gets his own underlings killed, is propaganda slander.
I mean, it's also how most Skaven work, so who cares?
By the most vile of treacherous minions and rivals, yes. As for tabletop downsides, he is definitely a bit pricey at 360 points. You get a wizard who...
Ooh. I mean, the army I have that I've never get to play because no one around me plays who I can actually compete against. The people in my area are incredibly competitive. Like, could place at tournaments if they bother going. Not gonna happen. But I do have Daughters of Cain, and yeah, I'm used to Morathi pricing. Even that sounds high.
Can kick ass in melee and regenerate for the cost, so I'd say you're definitely getting your money's worth. But just beware that if he goes down, nearly a quarter of a 2k point army is going with him. This next one, meanwhile, is more of a piece of advice than a downside, but I wouldn't recommend charging him headfirst into the center of your enemy's army just because he can kick ass. A D3 of healing and a decent save only counts for so much when everyone looks at him and begins beating his ass. On a semi-related note, as a big old monster unit, he can also be vulnerable to being tar-pitted, so try and make sure he doesn't spend the entire match failing to finish off a bunch of goblins or something like that.
Because if you have something that no one can beat, it doesn't matter if they're stuck in a corner doing nothing. Also, Martin mentioned that AOS 360 isn't even too bad. Morathi is 760. Yeah.
You'll feel very silly after that happens. He loses attacks as he takes wounds as well, but that's pretty standard for monstrous units in Warhammer. Just something to be aware of. And that was Grey Seer Thanquol. Amongst the Skaven, none shine brighter than he, because for miles around, the world can see his screw-up shining as bright as a star. Thank you as always to my wonderful channel members. You are the Bone Ripper to my Thanquol, providing me invaluable support.
That means they all just keep dying and coming back replaced with the same names? Kind of dark, but okay, sure. You do you, man. Okay, I see why people are recommending this one. I do like lore videos like this, and I've been recommending PancreasNoWork many times before. I've even checked out his videos, I think once before, but it was quite a while ago at this point. He definitely feels like one of the channels I might actually just check out outside of YouTube. Like, not when we're streaming, because I just like this stuff, so... it's good, man. Also, being told by Kryn that Archvillain Games and Reaper Miniatures have ship golems. Oh. I might need to go check that out. Also, I'm being told to check the end because there's maybe another joke in there.
Support, no matter how much I hit you
in the face
with the stick. If you'd like to support the channel, feel free to subscribe or become a member. Either way, thank you for watching, and take care out there.
So what is this after credits people are telling me about? Denver cheese. I feel we're going to get to it any second now. Oh, it's probably the different levels of membership. Okay. I do like when people just randomly put names in as jokes.
Bone Ripper, whack smack this guy thing's nutballs.
God damn it. Yeah. That's what they... He had Skaven speak for just dumb shit. Oh my... Well played, YouTube chat. Well played. Yeah, I see why this was awesome. You guys know the deal. There's a link below to the original video. Hit it up. I'll see you guys in the next one. Because, well, this is awesome, man. But right now, I've got this one here. Thanks for sticking around, guys. See you later. Adios.